when you stop needing them. Carl Jung on detachment and inner awakening. Carl Jung left us an impressive legacy by showing us how the most challenging moments of our lives are actually gateways to deep transformation. Those moments when everything seems to fall apart, when doubt quietly invades us and we feel loss, are not the end. They are the beginning of something extraordinary. Maybe this has happened to you. One day you wake up and feel like you no longer fit into your own life. What once excited you now feels empty. The people around you, even the closest ones, no longer inspire you. It's as if a part of you knows that something big is about to happen, but you don't know what it is or how to face it. This is no coincidence. Jung described it as a call from the unconscious, an inner impulse that gently seeks to pull you out of routine so that you can discover who you truly are. The unconscious has curious ways of manifesting itself. It might be through a recurring dream, an inexplicable sense of restlessness, or even unexpected events that seem conspired to nudge you in a different direction. These signs are your psyche's way of telling you it's time to change. It's time to wake up. But here's the interesting part. When you ignore these signals, the discomfort grows. Perhaps you felt it before. That sensation of being trapped in a life that doesn't feel like yours, in relationships that don't fulfill you, or in a job that does reflect your values. Jung believed that this discomfort is the resistance of your true self struggling to surface, a reminder that you are living according to external expectations and not from your own authenticity. Imagine this. You spent years walking a path that someone else designed for you. Maybe your parents, society, or even your own insecurities paved that road. But what if you stopped, looked around and chose a different path? It wouldn't be easy. Jung said that facing the unknown can be terrifying, but it is also the only road to fulfillment. That fear you feel is not your enemy. It can be your ally, the energy you need to step into the unknown, to explore your shadows, and to discover the immense power that lies within you. Because according to Jung, only by facing your fears can you transform them into tools for growth. Something extraordinary happens. You begin to realize that everything you need to change your life is already there, waiting to be discovered. It's not about seeking answers outside, but about allowing yourself to listen to that inner voice that has always been with you, even if you have ignored it at times. Perhaps you're wondering, how do I start this process? Jung taught us that the first step is simple but profoundly powerful. Recognizing your shadows, those parts of yourself that you have denied, repressed, or feared, not because they are bad, but because they didn't fit the image you want to project to the world. Have you noticed how certain people or situations seem to bring out the worst in you, as if pressing a hidden button that activates intense and sometimes uncontrollable emotions? This is no coincidence. According to Jung, these experiences are mirrors that reflect your shadows, showing you what you need to integrate in order to become whole. It's uncomfortable, yes, but also quietly liberating, because when you allow yourself to see and accept those parts of yourself, you stop being a prisoner of your automatic reactions. The most incredible part is that by doing so, everything around you begins to change. The relationships that once drained you fade away. The people who truly inspire you start appearing in your life as if they've been waiting for you to be yourself in order to connect with you. It's as if the universe responds to your decision to live authentically. This is not an instant process. It requires patience, courage, and a deep commitment to yourself. But every small step counts. Every time you choose to listen to your intuition instead of following others' opinions. Every time you allow yourself to say no to something that doesn't resonate with you, you are building a life that truly reflects who you are. Think about it. How many times have you made decisions based on what others expect from you instead of what you truly desire? How many times have you said yes when you want to say no? Those small betrayals of yourself accumulate over time, creating a disconnection that affects every aspect of your life. But the good news is that you can always choose differently. You can always return to yourself. Transformation doesn't happen in an instant. It's a journey, a continuous process of discovery and growth. And while it can be challenging, it is also profoundly rewarding. Because in the end, what truly matters is not what you achieve or accumulate, but how you feel about yourself. Are you true to your essence? Do you live from your truth? When you start living from your truth, something almost magical happens. The opportunities that once seem out of reach begin to appear, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Your energy, your decisions, even your words begin to reflect a confidence you never had before. This is a reward of integrating your shadows, of facing those fears that once paralyzed you. Integrating your shadows, of facing those fears that once paralyzed you. Carl Jung believed that this process not only transforms the individual, but also their surroundings. The superficial relationships that once filled your life give way to deep and meaningful connections. And here's the most fascinating part. These connections don't happen by chance. Jung spoke of synchronicity, that mysterious way in which events and people align at the exact moment to help you on your path. Have you ever met someone just when you needed them the most? Or stumbled upon an unexpected opportunity just as you were considering a change? Jung didn't see this as coincidence, but as a sign that you are aligned with your purpose. However, this alignment doesn't happen when you follow the expectations of others. It happens when you listen to your intuition, when you choose a path that truly resonates with you. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I know if I'm living for my truth? The answer isn't always obvious, but there are signs. If you constantly feel the need to mold yourself to fit into your environment, it's likely that you are not being authentic. If there's a persistent feeling of dissatisfaction or emptiness, it is your subconscious trying to tell you something. Don't ignore these signals. They are reminders that you are being called to something greater, something that can only be discovered by being true to yourself. Jung used to say that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that is what is at stake here. Your right to be authentic, to live a life that not only makes sense, but also fills you with purpose and joy. However, being authentic doesn't mean the path will be easy. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when you wonder if you're really heading in the right direction. But here's the secret. Those moments are not setbacks. They are tests, opportunities to reaffirm your commitment to yourself, because every time you choose truth over comfort, you take one step closer to the life you truly desire. As you move forward on this journey, it's important to remember that you are not alone. Jung taught us that while inner work is deeply personal, we are also connected to something much greater than ourselves, called the collective unconscious, the universe, or simply humanity. This connection means that when you transform, you also have the power to transform others. Think about this. Every time you live from your authenticity, you inspire others to do the same. Your actions, no matter how small they may seem, create a ripple effect. When you choose to be brave, when you decide to listen to your intuition and follow your purpose, you show those around you that they can do it too. And that in itself is an immense gift. So never underestimate the impact of this process. It is not just a personal transformation. It is a contribution to the world. Used to speak about the importance of individuation, that slow process of becoming your most complete and authentic self. But what many fail to understand is that this is not a selfish journey. On the contrary, it is an act of service, because by being who you truly are, you gently illuminate the path for others. When you start living from your authenticity, something quietly fascinating happens. The chaos in your life begins to reorganize itself. The pieces that once seemed out of place start to find their proper position. Relationships restructure themselves. Some disappear, others deepen, and new connections enter your life. Not because external circumstances have magically changed, but because you are now operating from a different place, from your essence. Carl Jung emphasized that life is not about avoiding chaos, but about learning how to navigate it. That chaos which often frightens us is actually a precursor to transformation. It is like fertile soil that must be tilled before something new can grow. But for this transformation to take place, it is necessary to trust the process even when you don't fully understand everything that is happening. This does not mean that you should passively accept everything. On the contrary, Jung believed that it is precisely in these moments of uncertainty when your participation should be most active. Reflect, question, and seek the hidden lessons in every experience, because every challenge you face is not just testing you, it is also revealing parts of yourself that you may not have known existed. Perhaps you're facing a difficult relationship, an unfulfilling job, or a situation that seems completely beyond your control. It is easy to see these experiences as obstacles, as barriers preventing you from moving forward. But I invite you to see them differently, as messages from your unconscious mind, gently reminding you that something needs to change. This is where most people stop, because change means letting go, and letting go can be terrifying. We are so accustomed to clinging to the familiar, even when it does not bring us happiness, that the idea of releasing it fills us with fear. But here lies the quiet power of Jung's perspective. Letting go does not mean losing. It means making space for something new, something better. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you held on to a relationship, a job, or even a routine, simply because it was what you knew, even though deep down you were aware that it did not make you happy? This attachment to the familiar is understandable. but it is also what keeps you stuck. Jung reminds us that true freedom comes when you dare to release what no longer resonates with you. And yes, this process could be painful. There may be moments of loneliness, doubt, and questioning everything you once believed about yourself. But that pain is not permanent. It is the price you pay for freedom, for the opportunity to build a life that reflects your truth. And most importantly, it is a pain that leads to healing. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if you freed yourself from these repetitive patterns. If instead of feeling trapped by the same stories, you could write a new chapter, one that truly reflects your truth and your purpose. This is not just possible. It is inevitable if you are willing to do the inner work. And that work does not have to be complicated. It can start with something as simple as paying attention to your emotions. Jung believed that emotions are the compass of the soul, signals guiding us toward what we need to explore. If something makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself why. If something fills you with joy, observe it. These clues are the map that will lead you to your authenticity. As you continue on this path, you'll also notice a shift in your relationship with time. The things that once seemed urgent will lose their weight, while what is truly important will take center stage. It is as if by aligning with yourself, you also align with the natural rhythm of life. Everything begins to flow more easily, even challenges, because now you face them from a place of clarity and confidence. As you keep exploring this journey toward authenticity, remember that every step counts. No matter how small your progress may seem, every conscious decision you make toward your truth is an act of courage. It is a reminder that you are here for something greater than merely existing. You are here to live, to create, to experience a fulfillment that comes from being true to yourself. The message Jung left us is clear. Transformation does not happen by ignoring our shadows or by trying to be someone we are not. It happens by embracing every part of ourselves, by looking within with honesty, and by allowing ourselves to be who we truly are without masks or pretenses. Now think about this. What part of yourself have you been ignoring? What aspect of your life do not resonate with your true essence? If something in this message has made you reflect, it is because your unconscious is already communicating with you, asking you to pay attention, to take action. This is the moment, not tomorrow, not next week, now. And here is the incredible part. By making a decision to live from your authenticity, you're not only changing your own life, you are creating an impact on the world. You are showing others that it is possible to be brave, to be authentic, and to live with purpose. That is the true beauty of this path. It not only transforms you, but also inspires those around you. If you've ever felt out of place in a conversation, if you've ever looked around and wondered why people try so hard to fit in, if you've ever felt like social interactions are a tiring performance you have no interest in playing, then this video is meant for you. And if you've never felt that way, maybe it's time to ask yourself, have you been living a lie? Because today we're going to explore an uncomfortable truth. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, saw it with piercing clarity. Most people live trapped in a persona. They dress, act, and speak according to how they think they should. not because it's who they truly are, but because they've been conditioned to seek approval. And now the question no one dares to ask: approval from whom? Think about it. How many meaningless conversations have you endured just to avoid seeming rude? How many jokes have you laughed at that didn't even amuse you? How many times have you felt like every social exchange is a transaction, a silent trade of your authenticity in exchange for acceptance? And here's the real question: at what cost? Jung understood something crucial. The more conscious you become, the more absurd the performance looks. Not because you're arrogant, but because you see what others refuse to see. You see the masks. You see the lies dressed as politeness. You see the fragility of a world built on collective illusion where everyone is desperately searching for validation in someone else's eyes. And the most unsettling part: you see that most people would rather not see it at all. You start to pull away. You begin to treasure your time more than someone's approval. And then something fascinating unfolds. At first, solitude feels like punishment. But slowly, it becomes privilege. Because in solitude you find what society tries to keep from you at all costs: inner peace. Jung knew this better than anyone. To him, becoming conscious was both a gift and a burden. The more you understand the world, the less enchanted you become by it. The more you see the depths of human nature, the less you want to play its game. And here's where many get it wrong. They think this is a call to misanthropy, to hate others, to reject all human contact. But that's not what this is. This is about discernment. It's about knowing the difference between authentic connection and social obligation. It's about giving yourself permission to choose when and with whom to engage, instead of following the current of expectation. It's about realizing that true intelligence doesn't seek external validation. But now comes the most intriguing part. The moment you stop chasing acceptance, something shifts. People feel it. They see that you're not desperate to fit in, that your identity doesn't collapse if you're not invited to the next gathering. And that confuses them, because most live chained to the need to be seen, heard, and approved. But you, by not playing that game, you become a mystery that intimidates, a mystery that fascinates. Because the great irony is, the less you crave social validation, the more power you hold over it. True freedom begins the moment you stop worrying about what others think of you. So the next time someone tells you that you should socialize more, that you should make an effort to be more outgoing, to be like everyone else, remember this: you are not the one who is mistaken. You are simply someone who has seen the truth. And the truth for most people is far too uncomfortable to accept. Accept. This is where things get even more fascinating, because once you realize you don't need social validation, once you truly internalize that most interactions are mere performance, something else becomes visible: silence. Silence becomes your ally, and that unnerves others. We live in a world where noise is constant. Social media, trivial conversations, news designed to provoke reactions. Everything is built to keep you in a state of perpetual distraction, because silence gently forces you to think. And thinking can feel dangerous. Carl Jung didn't just understand this, he lived it. He spent much of his life withdrawn from the collective noise, immersed in deep thought, symbolic analysis, and introspection. It wasn't misanthropy, it was awareness. Jung understood that the external clamor only clouds the inner world. This is where most people go wrong. They confuse solitude with isolation. But there's a massive difference between being alone and being isolated. Being alone is a choice of power, choosing depth over surface, quality over quantity. Isolation, on the other hand, is a sentence. It is what the one who longs to belong feels when he can't, the one who tries to be accepted but never quite fits. And here's the irony. The one who desperately seeks acceptance will always be rejected, but the one who rejects it by choice is never truly alone. Because when you walk your own path without concern for others' approval, you attract those who truly matter. People who think, people who question, people who don't need to fill every second of their lives with meaningless noise. Nothing more than a predictable sequence of routines meant to keep you inside the system. From birth, you're taught that acceptance is the goal, that you need friends, that you must belong to a group, that isolation is wrong. But no one tells you that most groups only exist out of fear of being alone, not true connection. No one tells you that many people with large social circles feel deeply empty. No one tells you that the greatest ideas, the most radical revolutions, the most important discoveries were born from minds that dared to break away from the noise. But here's where many people get it wrong. They think the solution is to reject society entirely, to become a hermit, to disconnect completely. But that's not it. True power isn't in fleeing the world. It's in knowing when to engage and when to retreat. It's in moving through the shadows when the noise gets too loud and emerging with impact when it matters most. Think of great strategists. They weren't always at the center of the battle. But when they appeared, their presence could not be ignored. Those who truly understand life are neither slaves to society nor fugitives from it. They are silent players. They make their moves without announcing them. They build in the dark. Carl Jung believed that superior consciousness was destined for solitude, not as punishment, but as advantage, because only in solitude can something of value be built. But what happens to those who don't understand this? What happens to those who believe happiness lies in the approval of others? They remain trapped in a cycle of dependency. Every photo they upload, every story they share, every opinion they express. It's all calculated to provoke a reaction, a like, a comment, some form of validation that convinces them they exist. But here's the brutal truth. If your existence depends on the reactions of others, then you've never truly existed. You're merely a reflection of what others expect from you. And that's the exact opposite of being free. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want without consequences. It's not needing anyone's approval to do what you genuinely desire. It's not relying on noise to feel alive. It's being able to sit in complete silence alone without anxiety, without needing to fill every empty space with distraction. And if you can't do that, then you're not free. You're a prisoner of noise. Jung understood this more deeply than most. That's why he turned inward. not as an act of rejection, but as a path to clarity, because only from a distance can you see the truth clearly. Only in silence can you truly hear your own voice. And if you've made it this far, it's because deep down you already knew it. You knew something in modern social life felt wrong. You sensed that many of your interactions are merely ritual. You knew real growth doesn't happen in noise but in introspection. So now the question is, will you have the courage to accept it? Terrifying, isn't it? Because most people spend their lives trying to belong, making silent sacrifices to be accepted, silencing parts of themselves to keep others comfortable. But you can't do that anymore, because now you understand something most never will. Life isn't about fitting in. It's about discovering what truly resonates with you, and having the courage to follow that path, even if it means walking it alone. And here's the most brutal paradox of all. The more you dare to be yourself, the more magnetic you become, because people are starving for authenticity. But very few are brave enough to be authentic, and those who move without fear, who need no approval, those are the ones who become truly free. There's a kind of person in this world who doesn't chase attention, doesn't beg for validation, and doesn't mold themselves to fit society's expectations. They walk quietly, often unnoticed at first, but there's something about them, something so grounded, so authentic, that you can't help but feel drawn in. These individuals aren't trying to be followed. They don't craft personas or play roles to gain admiration. And yet, they end up becoming the ones people look to, the ones who spark, change, the ones others remember long after they've left the room. Why? Because true inner freedom is rare. It's almost sacred. In a world where most people wear masks to survive, someone who lives without one becomes almost magnetic. Their presence speaks louder than their words. Their silence carries more power than most people's noise. And once you've seen it, once you've felt it, it becomes impossible to forget. It awakens something in you, a kind of remembering, a whisper from your soul saying, "This is what I've been looking for." And now that you felt it, now that a seed has been planted in your awareness, I have to ask you something important. What are you going to do with this? You can ignore it, of course. You can pretend this moment never happened. Scroll to the next distraction. Go back to the version of your life that fits neatly into expectations. That version where you smile when you're supposed to, agree when you don't want to, and follow rules that were written for someone else. You can do that. It's the easier way, the safer way, the path of least resistance, the one where you never have to face yourself in the mirror and ask the hard questions. But there's another path, a much more difficult one. It's the path of awakening, of discomfort, of peeling back all the layers you've spent your whole life building. It's the path where you start to see the world for what it really is, not just through the lens you've been taught to use, but through your own eyes, your own truth. It's the path where you realize you will never be fully understood by most people, and you make peace with that, where you stop betraying your soul just to belong in rooms that don't resonate with your energy, where you let go of the desperate need to be liked, to be accepted, to be normal, and instead you begin to live from a place of deep alignment. You begin to make choices not based on what others want from you, but on what your inner self is calling for. You start showing up as the most honest version of yourself, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it means standing alone. And let me tell you something. This path is not easy. It's lonely at times. It's raw. You will shed old versions of yourself like dead skin. You will grieve illusions you once held as truth. You'll lose people. You'll question everything. But you will gain something greater than all of that. You will find yourself, and once you do, nothing can ever compare to that clarity. You'll no longer need to fit in, because you'll realize you were never meant to. You'll no longer chase love or acceptance, because you'll see that you are love and you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who adapt to survive and those who awaken to thrive. The first type chooses comfort, familiarity, and approval. They live quiet lives filled with silent compromises, and that's okay. Everyone has their own path. But the second type, they are the ones who wake up. They see through the illusion. They feel the pull of something deeper. And once they taste that freedom, there's no going back. They may be misunderstood. They may walk alone for a while, but they leave a mark, not through fame or fortune, but through presence, through purpose, through the way their energy quietly changes everything around them. So now I ask you again, which kind of person are you? Are you ready to step outside the illusion? Are you ready to stop hiding, to stop settling, to stop playing small? Are you ready to live your truth, even if it makes other people uncomfortable? Because if you've made it this far, if you're still listening, then I know there's something inside you that's been waiting for this, waiting for someone to put into words what you've always felt but couldn't explain, waiting for a sign that you're not alone in this awakening. So, I invite you to do something simple but powerful. Leave a comment that says, "Silence is power." Let the world know you're ready to live by your own rules, not the ones handed down to you, and let others like you find their way. And if something in this message resonated, if it gently stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of who you really are beneath all the noise, then subscribe, because this is just the beginning. There's so much more to uncover, so much more to awaken within you. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, keep walking your path, even if no one else understands it yet, especially if no one else understands it yet. That's how you know you're on to something real. Jung, one of the greatest thinkers of modern psychology, left us with a truth that deeply resonates with the human soul. Pain is not merely a burden we carry, but a gateway to our most profound transformation. Too often, when we face suffering, we perceive it as an enemy, something to escape from at all costs. But Jung taught us that within that very pain lies the key to discovering who we truly are and attaining an inner peace that cannot be broken. Perhaps at some point you have felt that pain is consuming you as if there were no way out, no solution in sight. But what if I told you that the pain you fear so much is actually a sign, not a sign of weakness or defeat, but a call, an urgent message from within, from that part of you that longs to be seen and heard. Jung described the unconscious as a vast and deep ocean holding all our secrets, our repressed emotions, and our shadows. And in the heart of that ocean, pain acts as a beacon, guiding us toward the parts of ourselves that we have neglected. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack on a long journey. Each step feels more difficult. The weight becomes overwhelming and exhaustion takes over. But one day you decide to stop and open the backpack. Inside you find not just stones but also tools, lessons, truths, and a strength you never knew you possessed. This is how pain works in our lives. It is not there to destroy us, but to reveal what we need to confront and overcome. Jung believed that suffering is a universal experience, but what differentiates those who transform from those who remain stuck is the willingness to look within. It is easy to blame the world, others, or even God for our pain. But true liberation begins when we take responsibility for exploring it. This is not about blaming yourself. It is about understanding that the power to heal and grow has always been within you. In our darkest moments, the unconscious sends us messages. Though we rarely recognize them at first, it may come as a recurring dream, an overwhelming sense of emptiness, or even constant conflicts in our relationships. These are not mere accidents or coincidences. They are symbols, ways in which our psyche urges us to pay attention. Jung said that ignoring these messages is like trying to cover the sun with a single finger. Eventually, the truth will reveal itself, and that truth is not always comfortable. Many times our pain is deeply connected to our shadows, the parts of ourselves we prefer not to see. Perhaps it is a fear we have carried since childhood, an insecurity that paralyzes us, or an emotional wound we never allowed to heal. But Jung showed us that facing our shadows is a first step toward integrating them, turning them into a source of power rather than a burden. As you reflect on your own life, ask yourself, what emotions have I been repressing? What experiences have I avoided confronting out of fear of reliving the pain? These questions are not easy, but they are necessary because only when we gather the courage to look within ourselves can we truly begin the healing process. And in that process, we discover something remarkable. It is a teacher, one that challenges us to grow, to let go of what no longer serves us, and to embrace our true selves. Instead of resisting it, allow yourself to feel it, understand it, and learn from it. Because in doing so, you, will not only find peace, but also a sense of purpose and clarity that will transform your life. The pain we experience in our darkest moments is paradoxically the first step toward a deeper connection with ourselves. In those moments when everything seems to be falling apart, something within us begins to emerge, our authenticity. Jung believed that pain forces us to strip away the masks we wear to fit into the world and confront our true essence. And though that can be terrifying, it is also profoundly liberating. Think about the times in your life when you felt like you couldn't go on, when the weight of your problems seemed unbearable. What was it that allowed you to overcome that phase? Perhaps it was a need to find purpose, or maybe a moment of introspection that revealed something new about yourself. Jung teaches us that these crises are not coincidences, but a kind of initiation. It is as if the universe or our own psyche were testing us not to destroy us, but to transform us. This process of transformation has a name in Jungian psychology: individuation. It is the journey toward becoming who we truly are by integrating both our shadows and our light, accepting not only our virtues, but also our flaws. And here lies the key point. You cannot reach the state without going through pain. Jung used to say that gold is in the shadow. This means that the answers we seek, the peace we long for, are hidden within those aspects of ourselves that we tend to avoid. It is natural to want to escape from pain, to look for distractions or quick fixes, but these only prolong our suffering. Jung encourages us to do something radically different, to face it, not as a victim, but as an explorer ready to uncover the hidden treasures within. Because whether you believe it or not, every wound you carry holds a lesson, a piece of wisdom that can change the way you see life. And when you begin to explore your pain, something surprising happens. You realize you are not alone. Suffering is a universal human experience. At some point we have all faced loss, failure, or fear. And in that connection with others, we find incredible strength. Because when we share our stories, our struggles, and our victories, we come to see that we are far more resilient than we ever imagined. You might be thinking, this sounds good, but how do I do it? How do I confront something I've been avoiding for so long? Jung offers us a guide. The first step is to listen. Listen to your body, your emotions, and your thoughts. When something hurts, whether physically or emotionally, it is a signal. Instead of ignoring it, stop and ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? What part of me needs attention or healing? The next step is acceptance. Accepting does not mean resigning yourself. It means acknowledging what you feel without judgment. Jung said, "What you resist persists, and nothing could be truer when it comes to pain. The more we try to suppress it, the more. It manifests in our lives in ways we don't understand. But when we accept it, when we give it space to exist, it begins to lose its power over us." And then comes integration. This is the moment when we begin to transform pain into something meaningful. It can be through writing, art, meditation, or even just talking to someone we trust. The important thing is to find a way to give voice to what we carry inside, to allow those emotions to flow, instead of being trapped in them. Through this process, you will discover something extraordinary. Pain does not define you. It is part of your story, but it is not the whole story. And the more you work to understand and integrate it, the clearer your purpose becomes. Jung believed that each of us has a unique calling, a purpose that is deeply connected to our life experiences, and often it is through pain that we find the clues to discovering it. But this journey is not something you have to walk alone. In Jung's philosophy, personal growth always happens in relation to others, whether it is a friend, a therapist, or even a community like this one. Surrounding yourself with people who support and inspire you is essential, because while inner work is a personal journey, the connections we build with others help keep us on the path. And as you immerse yourself in the journey of facing your pain, a powerful truth emerges. Pain does not only transform you, it also changes the way you relate to the world. Carl Jung firmly believed that the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. In other words, our relationships, decisions, and experiences are deeply influenced by how we manage our internal emotions, including suffering. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to live without fear of pain, not because it doesn't exist, but because you have learned to face it and use it as a tool for your growth. Jung described the state as a balance between consciousness and the unconscious, a dance where both work together instead of being in conflict. When we achieve this balance, our lives begin to align in ways that once seemed impossible. However, this process is not linear. There will be days when you feel like you've made progress only to encounter a challenge that seems to pull you away from your center. It is important to remember that these setbacks are not failures, but part of the journey. Jung used to say that. True progress often comes in spirals. You revisit old wounds, but from a place of greater understanding and strength. One of Jung's most transformative concepts is that of the shadow. We all have one. That part of ourselves we would rather not see. It can include fears, insecurities, or aspects of our personality that we have repressed because they do not fit the image we want to project to the world. But here's the secret. The more you deny your shadow, the more control it has over you. It's like trying to cover a volcano with a weak lid. Eventually, the pressure will rise to the surface. Accepting your shadow is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of courage. It means looking in the mirror with honesty and compassion, recognizing both your light and your darkness. Because as Jung taught, only by integrating our shadow can we become whole beings. And it is in this integration that we find inner peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because we are no longer at war with ourselves. As you begin working with your shadow, you will notice subtle but powerful changes in your life. Perhaps you'll realize that you no longer react the same way to certain situations or people. Maybe you'll feel that your relationships become more authentic, less burdened by expectations or resentments. This is no coincidence. It is the result of freeing the parts of yourself that you once kept repressed. A powerful example of this is how we approach personal relationships. Often our relationships reflect our internal wounds. If we have not healed certain parts of ourselves, those wounds are likely to manifest in our interactions with others. But when we begin to heal, we also begin to attract relationships that are more aligned with our truth. This does not mean that there will never be conflicts, but that we will have the clarity and strength to handle them from a place of love and authenticity. Another key aspect of this work is learning to let go. Jung believed that one of the greatest sources of human suffering is our resistance to change. We cling to relationships, situations, or beliefs that no longer serve us because we fear the unknown. But in that clinging, we only prolong our pain. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means trusting that by releasing what no longer resonates with you, you are making space for something better. Imagine you are holding a heavy object in each hand. As time passes, the weight begins to wear you down. Yet, you hesitate to release it because you fear the unknown. You don't know what will happen next, so you cling to what is familiar, even if it burdens you. Now imagine that by letting go, your hands become free to grasp something new, something lighter, something far more meaningful. This is how the process of letting go works in our lives. And when we learn to release what no longer serves us, we also learn to trust ourselves, our intuition, and the natural flow of life. Jung described this trust as a connection to something greater, a profound sense of purpose that transcends ego and unites us with the vastness of the universe. But this connection is not something you can seek externally. It is cultivated from within through deep inner work. The beauty of this process is that the more you align with yourself, the more the world around you aligns with you. Opportunities begin to unfold. The right people enter your life. And most importantly, you discover an inner peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. It is a peace that arises from knowing who you truly are and living in harmony with that truth. Real transformation begins the moment you decide to apply everything you have learned about yourself in your daily life. Carl Jung showed us that knowledge has no real value unless it is translated into action. This is where inner work finds its highest expression in the choices you make, the relationships you build, and the way you confront the challenges of everyday life. Imagine that every interaction, every obstacle, every moment is an opportunity to practice this newfound connection with yourself. You are no longer reacting from a place of fear or insecurity. You are acting from a place of authenticity and clarity. This shift does not happen overnight, but over time, you'll begin to notice that your life transforms in ways that once seemed impossible. One of the most crucial steps in this journey is developing a conscious relationship with your emotions. Jung said that emotions are the language of the unconscious, and learning to listen to them is essential for living fully. The next time you feel sadness, anger, or fear, instead of suppressing these emotions, pause and ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? What need or unresolved wound lies beneath this feeling? When you start exploring your emotions in this way, you realize they are not your enemies. They are allies guiding you toward deeper self-standing. Perhaps the anger you feel is simply a signal that you need to establish firmer boundaries in your relationships. Or maybe the sadness is a reminder that there is something you need to release in order to move forward. Every emotion has a purpose, and learning to honor that purpose is an act of self-love. Another key aspect of this path is paying attention to synchronicities. Jung coined this term to describe those meaningful coincidences that seem to occur at just the right moment. Maybe you think about someone and suddenly they call you, or you come across a book that provides the exact answer to a question you have been contemplating. These experiences are not mere chance. They are signs that you are aligned with your purpose and your truth. However, in order to recognize these synchronicities, you must be present. We live in a world that constantly distracts us with external noise, but the true power of synchronicities only reveals itself when you are connected to yourself. Dedicate time to introspection, to meditation, or simply to silence. It is in these moments of stillness that answers often emerge as you work on yourself. It is also crucial to surround yourself with people who support your growth. Jung emphasized that our relationships act as mirrors of our inner state. If you find yourself surrounded by people who constantly drain your energy or make you feel inadequate, it is time to ask yourself what you are allowing into your life. This is not about blaming others, but about reflecting on why you attract certain dynamics and how you can change them. At the same time, seek connections that inspire you, that challenge you to become the best version of yourself. These relationships won't always be comfortable, but they will be authentic. And in that authenticity, you will find a sense of belonging that goes beyond appearances. Finally, never underestimate the power of small steps. Transformation can sometimes feel overwhelming, as if you need to change everything all at once. But Jung taught us that deep change happens in the details. It is in those small daily decisions. Choose and act from love instead of fear where you truly transform your life. For example, the next time you face a difficult situation, instead of reacting automatically, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what part of me is being triggered? How can I respond from a more conscious place? Or when you feel consumed by stress, take a few minutes to breathe deeply and reconnect with yourself. These small acts of presence have a cumulative impact that can change your life. The path to inner peace and fulfillment is not easy, but it is profoundly rewarding. Every step you take not only brings you closer to your truth, but also inspires others to find theirs. Because as Jung reminded us, when we heal our own wounds, we also contribute to the healing of the world around us. When you choose to embrace your pain as a teacher, you realize that it is not an obstacle, but a bridge to your true self. Carl Jung showed us that suffering, no matter how difficult, has a purpose to open our eyes to our essence and allow us to live with greater authenticity. This journey is not simple, but every step you take is an affirmation of your inner strength and your commitment to a fuller, more meaningful life. By learning to integrate your shadows, to listen to the signals from your unconscious, and to trust the synchronicities that appear along your path, you become someone who lives in harmony with their truth. That inner peace you once longed for is no longer a distant ideal. It is a tangible experience that you create from within, and in doing so you not only transform your own life, but also the world around you. Remember, change begins with you. Every action, every conscious decision you make has the power to impact those around you. When you live from your authenticity, you inspire others to do the same. That is the magic of this process. Not only do you free yourself, but you also open the door for others to find their own path to peace and fulfillment. Now is your moment to act. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to do something powerful. Share this video with someone who might need it. Maybe you know someone going through a difficult time, struggling with their shadow, or seeking a deeper connection with themselves. By sharing this content, you are not only helping that person, but also contributing to the creation of a community of transformation and support. Leave a comment below. Tell me which part of this message touched your heart, or how you plan to apply these teachings in your life. Your words have the power to inspire others who read them and strengthen this network of people committed to personal growth. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done it yet. This is just the beginning of a journey filled with deep reflections, valuable lessons, and powerful tools to transform your life. By activating the notification bell, you ensure that you won't miss any of the upcoming videos where we will continue to explore these topics in even greater depth. Every time you engage with this content, you help it reach more people. People like you who are searching for answers and guidance on their path. Remember, life is not about escaping pain, but about finding within it the key to your transformation. You have the power to change your reality. Do it now. Start today, because the world needs more authentic, courageous individuals who are willing to live in alignment with their truth. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of this community. Together, we are creating something truly extraordinary. I'll see you in the next video, and never forget, change begins with you. Until next time. Sometimes the soul begins to act in mysterious ways. You wake up before dawn for no reason. You sense an invisible presence watching you. And strangely, it doesn't scare you. You start to pull away from people without any explanation. And there are days when you cry without feeling sad, or laugh without knowing why. Your logical mind tries to make sense of it all to find a reason, but nothing fits. It's not just a bad day. It's not about your past or some kind of fatigue. This is something very few people experience with awareness. It's as if a silent force is gently pulling you away from the mold of everything you've known and pushing you toward a life that you still don't understand. There are no warnings, no instructions, just scattered signs, emotions that grow more intense, and a quiet voice inside that says, "Trust even if you don't know what in." This isn't something you can learn from books. It's not taught in spiritual retreats or spoken aloud in conversations, because what ascending souls go through has no name. Yet it changes everything. First, your identity begins to crumble. Then your relationships, and finally your entire perception of reality. Nothing feels the same anymore, and neither do you. That's when the silence comes. Not the kind of silence shaped by your environment, but a silence born from the rupture inside you. You become more selective, more aware of what enters and leaves your energy. You can no longer stand meaningless conversations. You feel a deep discomfort in spaces where you can't be your true self. And you begin to realize that many of your old relationships were built on versions of you that no longer exist. This isn't loneliness, it's purification. Because when the soul ascends, it doesn't crave company, it craves truth. And so, the first thing it does is strip you of everything you're not. Strangely, No one notices from the outside. You still wear the same clothes, speak with the same voice, carry the same mannerisms, but inside you no longer belong to the world that surrounds you. Your intuition sharpens not because you seek it out or train it. It simply happens. You begin to sense when someone is lying without hearing a word. You detect heavy energy in places where you once laughed. You start predicting little things that used to go unnoticed. All of this is part of the same process, this subtle yet irreversible transformation. Ascending souls don't just face external trials. They undergo the slow dissolution of everything they once clung to with certainty. And in that unraveling, something is revealed. Something you never knew you had. A strength that doesn't roar, but never breaks. In the midst of that invisible transition, a different kind of emptiness appears. Not the emptiness of someone who has lost, but the emptiness of someone who is being rebuilt from another dimension. You begin to let go of promises that no longer reflect who you are, ideals that only exhausted you, and the constant need to be understood by everyone. You begin to realize that understanding yourself is far more valuable than any external validation. Your body notices it too. It responds differently. Sometimes it sleeps longer than usual. Other times it barely needs sleep at all. At times it craves the fullness of life. At others all it longs for is silence. It's as if your very cells are being reprogrammed to inhabit a more subtle reality. And without seeking it, your sensitivity becomes a kind of radar. You can read unspoken emotions, perceive intentions before they're acted upon, and feel overwhelmed just by someone's gaze. It's exhausting, yes, but it's also a privilege because you're not falling. You're rising. And every sensation that challenges your old identity is a clue, a message, a sign that your soul is crossing a threshold that words cannot describe. There are no medals for this, no applause because hardly anyone knows, hardly anyone sees. Only those who are living it understand that this stage can't be explained. It can only be lived. And as you keep walking without maps, without certainty, something inside of you slowly begins to settle. It's not that the pain disappears, it's that it stops hurting. In the same way, it's not that you suddenly understand everything. It's that you learn not to need all the answers. The ascending soul doesn't seek to control. It seeks to align. It doesn't force its rhythm. It listens for the rhythm of the universe. And over time, without realizing it, you begin to attract different experiences, deeper, more truthful, more aligned people who recognize you without needing masks, situations that seem designed to help you grow, and synchronicities that confirm what your intuition already knew. The path doesn't get easier, but you do. You become lighter, more real, more you. You stop fighting to be understood. You no longer beg to be chosen. You no longer force your presence into spaces where your light makes others uncomfortable. Because now you understand the soul that ascends doesn't rise like a balloon. It sheds like a snake shedding its skin. And each layer you leave behind carries the story of a version of you that no longer needs to be repeated. Your ascension is not a destination. It's a frequency. It's not something you reach one day, but something you tune into. And when your energy rises to that level, everything that no longer aligns with your soul begins to fall away on its own. People, thoughts, habits, and situations that once felt essential suddenly lose their grip on you. There is no grand announcement, no dramatic farewell, just a subtle shift. And with it, your priorities change without warning. What once carried weight no longer burdens you. What once caused pain now brings wisdom. And what once defined you becomes a distant memory left behind without resistance or longing. You begin to love differently, not from fear or lack, but from presence. There is no more desperation, no more anxious attachment, no more frantic pursuit of someone else's validation. You love from a place of abundance, of quiet knowing, because now you understand that what is truly yours will never leave, and what departs simply no longer vibrates at your level. You stop holding on so tightly. You trust, you allow, and through that surrender, you become more anchored in the present moment. Every word you speak, every glance you give, every silence you hold suddenly carries a depth that was once invisible to you. Life in all its simplicity becomes sacred. It's not that the world changed, it's that your eyes did. You begin to see through the lens of the soul, not because those truths weren't always there, but because you are not yet ready to receive them. You are not yet open enough, soft enough, aligned enough to perceive them. And then it happens, the silent transformation, the kind that has no witnesses, the subtle death of the persona, the quiet rebirth that reshapes everything without needing to shout. When a soul ascends, it does not need to convince anyone. There's no need for approval or proof. You feel it in your presence, in your gaze, in your energy. It's in the way you exist without imposing, but still leave an unmistakable mark. What you once sought outside of yourself now flows from within. Peace is no longer something you chase. It becomes the ground you walk on. Direction no longer comes from others' opinions, but from a soft inner compass that always knew the way. Even if you can't explain where you're going, there's a quiet certainty that you're walking towards something greater. You stop needing answers. You stop running from discomfort. You no longer beg life to make sense. You simply trust. And in that trust, you step into who you were always meant to be. Not someone new, but someone real, whole, ready. And then something unexpected happens. You stop wanting to go back. Not out of rejection, but out of reverence. You honor the version of you that carried the doubts, the silence, the breaking points, the version that kept going when no one noticed. That version was the bridge. And now, standing here breathing differently, more deeply, more slowly, you feel it. Each breath connects you to something beyond this moment, beyond this body, beyond this dimension. You no longer need everyone to understand. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing for your sensitivity, for the way you see life, for the intensity with which you feel things others barely notice. Because now you know this isn't a phase. This is a threshold, a new way of existing on earth without severing your connection to the sky. You don't look for signs outside anymore. You listen to the ones within, and you realize that every disruption, every loss, every heartbreak was a loving preparation. Each crack in your being was a doorway, a divine initiation that brought you here, where you no longer react from the wound, but respond from awareness. Ascending souls are not defined by what they achieve, but by what they endure in silence, by all they release, by all they transmute inside themselves while the world continues unaware of the inner revolutions taking place. And still they stay, They don't give up. They don't grow cold. They don't become bitter. They become light. And then something magical happens. Clears throat. Life begins to return pieces of you that were once forgotten. Not as they were. Not wrapped in pain or nostalgia, but softened, transformed, as if the universe is quietly thanking you for never giving up on yourself. You begin to notice beauty in the unseen, joy in simplicity, meaning in the spaces that once felt empty. Not because the world has changed, but because now you see it differently. You no longer walk to arrive. Walking itself becomes the experience. You no longer seek healing. You understand that the wound was a teacher. You no longer strive to be worthy because now you know your very existence is enough. And that feeling, that sensation blooming quietly in your chest, the one you can't quite name, but feels like home, that is the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where you no longer need protection because you have become your own safe place, a chapter where promises are no longer necessary, because you trust the integrity of your own path, a chapter where intuition speaks louder than external noise. This quiet, unglamorous, deeply sacred transformation is real ascension, invisible to many, but undeniable to those who feel it. And even if no one sees it from the outside, you do. You feel it. You notice that you no longer belong in the spaces you used to force yourself into. Your silence no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like a sanctuary. The way you look at people has changed. You no longer see their masks. You see their essence. You're no longer drawn to what sparkles. You are moved by what's real. You no longer need to prove your worth because now at last you embody it. And in the midst of this inner rebirth, something stirs deep within you, something that shakes you to your core. You begin to understand a truth you had never fully grasped before. True ascension is not about escaping the world. It's a sacred way of remaining in it without being contaminated, without losing yourself, without betraying who clears throat you are. You begin to live with your soul at the forefront, making decisions that may seem small to others, but silently transform everything within you. You begin to choose silence where once you screamed. You begin to say no where once you swallowed your truth. You close doors without hate, and you open yourself to the unknown without fear. There's a depth that's slowly awakening inside you, a wisdom that doesn't come from books or mentors or rules, but rises naturally the moment you stop running from yourself. Because only those who have walked through fire understand what it means to hold peace in their hands, and now you can do it too. Not because everything in your life is finally fixed, but because you no longer need to be in control to feel safe. You've returned to yourself, and even if the world doesn't see it or celebrate it, that return changes absolutely everything. In that homecoming, you begin to understand the things you once resented. You start to see that every loss was an act of love disguised as pain, that every waiting period was a quiet lesson in trust, that every heartbreak didn't destroy you, but created the perfect space for something more real to be born. You no longer live out of obligation. You live out of truth. You're no longer defined by what you do or by who approves of you. You're defined by the peace that radiates from within when you show up as your truest self, unfiltered, unapologetic. And that peace, that stillness you never knew you could feel, is the clearest sign that you've ascended, not upward, but inward. You've stepped away from the noise. You've stepped away from the mask. You've stepped away from the scripted version of life that you were taught to perform. Now you speak from a different place. You feel from a deeper layer. You love from a higher frequency. And yes, some people might not understand you anymore. And that's okay, because you no longer need to be understood in order to feel peace. You only need to remain loyal to yourself. And in that profoundly intimate act, so subtle the world may never notice, your soul begins to shine brighter than ever before. Not out of ego, not for praise, but from a deep, unshakable alignment with your essence, that harmony between who you truly are and how you live. That's what no one tells you about the soul's ascension. That's what most people never realize is happening, until they feel it for themselves. So if you've made it this far, it's because something in you already knew. It recognized the message before the words were even spoken. What you're feeling isn't confusion. It's awakening. And this silent, invisible process you're going through, it's not a punishment. It's preparation. Your soul chose this path. And though it may hurt, though you may feel alone at times, you are being guided. So don't stop now. Don't shrink to fit back into places you've already outgrown. Don't dull your light to match someone else's comfort. Your light is not a mistake. It's a calling. If something in these words awakens something deep within you, I invite you to come closer to subscribe to the channel, because this space isn't here to feed your ego. It exists to awaken what your soul came to remember. It's not about fads or distractions. It's about returning to the truth that has always lived within you, silently waiting for the right moment to be heard again. And now I want to ask you, are you feeling it? Are you starting to notice the signs? Maybe it's a quiet discomfort with everything that once made sense. Maybe it's the strange need to let go of certain people, places, or routines, not out of anger, but because they no longer resonate with the person you're becoming. It's as if your soul is shedding an old skin, preparing to inhabit a new one. And even if you can't explain it, know that something deep is changing within you. If this speaks to you, if this message touches a part of you that words can't define, leave me a comment. Let me know that you're feeling it too. Let me know that you recognize the signs, that you sense your transformation, that you've begun to listen to your inner voice, even if the outside world doesn't understand it yet. And please share this message with someone you know who is also awakening. Sometimes we just need a sign, a reminder that we're not going crazy, a moment that confirms we're not walking this path alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for feeling so deeply. Thank you for trusting the strength of your soul even when it takes you away from the familiar. That courage, that willingness to keep walking when the path isn't clear. That's what awakening is all about, and you are achieving it. So keep listening, keep remembering, keep choosing your soul again and again. Let me share something with you that might completely shift your perspective. But first, let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself lost in thoughts about someone, even when you were certain you had moved on? It happens in quiet moments, when you're lying in bed at night, when a familiar song plays, or when an unexpected sense stirs an emotion you weren't prepared for. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, like a faint whisper in the back of your mind, but it lingers persistent. Maybe you tell yourself it's just nostalgia, that it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe you try to brush it aside, burying it under distractions, hoping that one day you wake up and they'll be gone from your thoughts. And yet, despite all your efforts, they remain. It's almost as if their presence has nothing to do with them at all. Carl Jung believed that nothing in the unconscious mind happens randomly. Thoughts don't simply appear without reason. If someone continues resurfacing in your mind, it's because your subconscious is trying to tell you something. That person isn't just a memory. They're a symbol, a representation of something much larger than themselves. The unconscious is a vast and intricate landscape filled with every experience we've ever had. Every wound, every joy, every unresolved emotion. Some things get neatly stored away, while others, especially those with real weight, find ways to resurface again and again until we finally pay attention. Maybe you believe that if you had closure, these thoughts would disappear. Maybe you think that if you distract yourself enough, you'll eventually be free. But what if I told you that the more you try to silence them, the louder they become? Jung believed that the things we resist the most are often the very things that persist, that the mind does not let go of what it still needs to understand. So the real question isn't, why am I still thinking about them, but rather, what part of myself is being reflected in them? Because sometimes the people who occupy our thoughts the most are not just people. They are mirrors showing us something we have yet to recognize within ourselves. And this is where everything begins. Think about this for a moment. What if the reason you can't stop thinking about them has nothing to do with them at all? What if they are merely a reflection, an echo of something within you, something your mind is trying to make sense of? Jung believed that we don't just see people for who they are. We see them through the lens of our own experiences, wounds, and unspoken desires. In other words, we project parts of ourselves onto them, often without realizing it. Projection is one of the most powerful psychological forces shaping human relationships, influencing not only how we see others, but also how we understand ourselves. This happens when we take something buried deep within us, an insecurity, an unfulfilled need, a suppressed aspect of ourselves, and unconsciously project it onto someone else. We believe we are fixated on a person, but in reality, we are obsessed with what they represent. It's not just about them. It's about what they awaken inside us. Have you ever admired someone so intensely that you felt drawn to them in a way that seemed almost beyond your control? It could be because they embodies something you have denied in yourself, some part of you that you've buried, silenced, or ignored. Maybe they carry a confidence you secretly wish you had. Perhaps they live with a sense of freedom and authenticity that you long for, but have never allowed yourself to embrace, and so your mind fixates on them, not because they hold the answers, but because they remind you of something missing within you. Then there is the other side of projection, the shadows, the aspects of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge, the wounds we are unwilling to confront. Sometimes the people who occupy our thoughts the longest are the ones who have hurt us the most. We replay conversations, relive the pain, analyze every detail as if searching for something we overlooked. But Jung would tell you that this fixation is not about them. It's about you. It's about the wound that was exposed, the fear that was triggered, the unresolved part of you that surfaced. And until you recognize it for what it is, your mind will keep circling back, trying to solve a puzzle it doesn't yet understand. So, ask yourself, what does this person represent to you? What qualities do they possess that stir something deep inside you? What emotions do they bring to the surface? Because the truth is, the thoughts won't stop until you stop looking outward and start looking within. The person you can't stop thinking about is just a mirror, and the reflection is trying to show you something vital. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because some of these attachments, these persistent thoughts, go beyond simple projection. They are tied to something greater, something that has shaped your relationships long before you ever met this person. This is where we begin to uncover the hidden forces of archetypes, the universal patterns that dictate who we connect with and why. Not all thoughts are just thoughts. Some of them run deeper, tracing back to patterns older than you can remember. Have you ever wondered why certain people leave such a lasting impact on you while others fade into the background without a second thought? Why some connections feel almost destined, as if they were meant to happen? Carl Jung believed that our deepest emotional bonds are not mere coincidences. He argued that these attachments are not just about the individuals themselves, but are shaped by universal patterns buried deep within the human psyche. These patterns, known as archetypes, act as invisible blueprints that influence how we perceive the world, how we love, and how we form connections. They are silent forces pulling us towards certain people while pushing us away from others. Among these, the most powerful are thema and animus, the unconscious feminine within the male psyche, and the unconscious masculine within the female psyche. When someone keeps resurfacing in your mind, it may be because they have awakened this deep and hidden part of you. Think about the people you have felt the strongest attraction to. Do they follow a pattern? Do they share certain traits or evoke similar emotions? This is not just a random occurrence. Your unconscious mind has been shaping your attachments long before you were even aware of it. Some individuals embody the qualities you subconsciously seek, the energy that feels familiar. Others bring to the surface unresolved wounds, buried conflicts, or deep-seated fears. This is why certain people linger in our minds long after they have left our lives. It is not just their presence that affected us, but what they triggered within us. Jung believed that love and obsession often have little to do with the actual person we fixate on, and everything to do with what they represent for us. That is why some connections feel inexplicably powerful, almost mythical, as if they carry a significance beyond our understanding, And perhaps in a way they do, because whether we realize it or not, we are all searching for something in others: wholeness, understanding, healing. But there is another side to this. Sometimes these attachments are not about what we need, but about what we lack. The people who consume our thoughts may symbolize the aspects of ourselves we have yet to embrace, the strength we have denied, the confidence we never claimed, the love we never fully gave to ourselves. Until we recognize this, our minds will continue to cling to them, try to make sense of something that was never really about them in the first place. Yet beneath archetypes and attachments lies something even deeper: unhealed wounds, silent fears that shape our emotions, and subconscious patterns that keep us trapped in the past. Until we confront these wounds, we will remain bound to the ghosts of our own minds. Until we confront the real reason why certain people linger in our minds, we will continue searching for answers in all the wrong places. Some thoughts don't just linger. They grip us, pull us back to places we thought we had left behind. No matter how much you try to move on, it feels like an invisible force keeps you tethered, keeps you questioning, keeps you remembering. But here's something most people don't realize. The reason you can't stop thinking about them has less to do with who they are and more to do with what they triggered inside of you. Carl Jung believed that the things we try hardest to suppress are the very things that end up controlling us. These people didn't just appear in your life randomly. They awaken something that has been buried within you for a long time. Maybe it was a fear of abandonment. Maybe it was a wound of rejection. Maybe it was a deep longing for validation that you didn't even realize was still there. And when someone activates that part of you, when they bring an old wound to the surface, your mind clings to them, not because they are special, but because your psyche is trying to heal. Think of it this way. When a physical wound is left untreated, your body keeps sending pain signals to let you know something isn't right. The same happens with emotional wounds. If you can't stop thinking about someone, it's because there is a part of you that is still hurting. Maybe they left without an explanation, and your mind keeps replaying everything, searching for closure. Maybe they made you feel unworthy, and now you're stuck in a cycle of trying to prove something, not just to them, but to yourself. Maybe they reminded you of something you've been running from for years. The mind doesn't hold on to people. It holds on to unresolved emotions, unspoken words, unfinished pain. And until you address the root of it, your thoughts will keep circling, trying to make sense of what your heart still doesn't understand. Jung would tell you that the answer isn't in obsessing over the person, but in turning inward, tracing the pain to its source, understanding why this particular wound exists, and finally giving yourself what you have been seeking from someone else. So, what is it? What is the wound beneath these thoughts? Is it a longing for connection? A fear of being forgotten? There is a part of you that you never fully reveal, a side that remains hidden even from yourself. And until you stop asking why certain people or situations won't leave your mind and start asking what within you needs healing, those thoughts will never truly fade. Here's the hard truth. Sometimes the person you can't stop thinking about is merely a distraction from the real work that needs to be done. And that work isn't about them. It's about you. Because the moment you face the wound, the moment you realize it was never really about that person in the first place, is the moment you begin to reclaim your mind, your heart, and your sense of peace. But before you can let go, before you can truly free yourself, there is something even more powerful you must understand. The shadow, the part of you that you have been avoiding, the hidden force that shapes not just your thoughts, but your entire life. There is a version of yourself you don't fully know, a side that has been pushed away, ignored, buried beneath distractions, relationships, and endless thoughts about people who should no longer matter. Carl Jung called this the shadow self, the hidden side of you made up of everything you have denied, rejected, or failed to embrace. Whether you realize it or not, this shadow is shaping your emotions, your thoughts, and yes, even your attachments to people you can't seem to forget. What if the person who won't leave your mind isn't there because you love them or because they are special, but because they are revealing something about yourself that you refuse to see? Jung believed that the relationships that affect us the most deeply, the ones that leave lasting impressions, the ones we obsess over, are often the ones that bring us face to face with our own unconscious. Sometimes what keeps you hooked on someone is not their presence, but the way they awaken a part of you that had been hidden for far too long. Have you ever noticed how certain people evoke extreme emotions within you? One person can make you feel insecure, abandoned, unworthy, or desperate for validation. Another can make you feel alive, inspired, or as if you are finally understood. The reason they have such a powerful effect on you isn't because of who they are. It's because of what they reflect back to you. They expose something inside you, something that has always been there, waiting to be seen. Maybe the person you can't stop thinking about represents a trait you have suppressed. Perhaps they embody freedom, confidence, or emotional depth, qualities you have long suppressed within yourself. Maybe they exposed a wound you never wanted to admit was still open. This is why certain people seem to haunt us, because they force us to confront what we have been avoiding. Jung believed that unless you integrate your shadow, unless you acknowledge and accept the hidden parts of yourself, you will remain trapped in cycles of longing, attachment, and fixation. Your unconscious will continue placing mirrors in front of you, using others as reflections, until you finally recognize what it is trying to reveal. So ask yourself, what is this person showing you about yourself? What is it about them that triggers such an intense emotional reaction in you? What part of yourself have you been unwilling to face? Because the moment you stop fixating on them and start focusing on what they represent within you, everything changes. But this is where true freedom begins. Understanding your shadow is only the first step. Once you recognize what has been hidden, you must learn to release its hold over you. And this is where the journey toward individuation begins. The path to truly reclaiming your mind, your emotions, and your sense of self. If you have come this far, You've likely realized something profound. The person you cannot stop thinking about is not just a person. They are a symbol, a reflection, a messenger of something buried deep within you. And now that you have seen the projection, the archetypes, the wounds, and the shadow, it is time to ask the real question. How do you finally let go? Carl Jung believed that true healing comes through a process called individuation, the journey of becoming a fully integrated and self-aware individual. Individuation is not about forgetting, suppressing, or forcing yourself to move on. It is about understanding why this person held such power over you in the first place and reclaiming that power for yourself. Letting go is not an act of resistance. It is an act of understanding. Most people try to move on by distracting themselves, jumping into another relationship, convincing themselves they no longer care. But thoughts do not vanish simply because you ignore them. If someone still occupies your mind, it means a part of you is still entangled with them. The only way to truly free yourself is to extract the lesson your unconscious is trying to teach you. Perhaps they awaken a longing within you, a desire for love, validation, or connection that you have not yet fully given yourself. Maybe they exposed a wound you never wanted to face. Maybe they embodied something you've been suppressing, a part of you that has been waiting to be acknowledged. The key to letting go is not to push these realizations away, but to integrate them. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that you projected onto them, tending to the wounds they revealed, and understanding that they were never the true source of what you were searching for. Jung would say that the reason you can't stop thinking about them is because you've unknowingly given them a part of your soul, and the only way to move forward is to call that part back to you. This is what individuation is about. Learning to be whole, to stop searching for missing pieces in someone else, and instead find them within yourself. So instead of asking, why can't I stop thinking about them, ask yourself, what part of me do I need to reclaim? Instead of forcing yourself to forget, seek to understand. Instead of waiting for closure, create it within yourself. The moment you stop seeing them as the answer, the moment you realize that the power to move on has always been in your hands, that is the moment their presence in your mind begins to fade. And this is where everything shifts, because you are no longer lost in the illusion that someone else holds the key to your peace. Now you see the truth. The person you were searching for was never them. It was always you. There comes a moment when you understand that your thoughts are no longer about them. The memories, the longing, the unanswered questions, they were never really about that person at all. They were breadcrumbs leading you back to yourself. Carl Jung showed us that what lingers in our minds is a reflection of what lingers in our souls. And the moment you stop chasing ghosts and start embracing the lesson, the weight begins to lift. You were never haunted by them. They were calling you to heal. And now you know exactly what you need to do. It's time to set yourself free. The path to inner peace and self-discovery is not an easy one, but it is the most rewarding journey you will ever take. It requires courage, patience, and above all, a willingness to confront what lies within. Emotional detachment is not about losing yourself. It is about reclaiming yourself. It is about understanding that your past does not define you. that your pain does not own you, and that you have the power to rewrite your story at any moment. Think about it. Every time you hold on to something that no longer serves you, you are carrying extra weight that slows you down, that drains your energy, that keeps you from evolving into the person you are meant to be. Imagine how liberating it would feel to let go, not as an act of abandonment, but as an act of self-love. Imagine standing tall, free from the burdens of the past, fully embracing the present and walking with confidence toward your future. Jung believed that every challenge, every struggle, and every painful experience is a doorway to transformation. Nothing in life happens by accident. Every person you meet, every obstacle you face, every emotion that rises within you is part of a greater plan designed to help you grow. The universe is constantly giving you opportunities to heal, to evolve, and to step into your highest potential. But the question is, will you take those opportunities? Will you dare to face your shadows and emerge stronger, wiser, and more at peace than ever before? The moment you choose to release what no longer serves you, something magical happens. You create space for new beginnings. You open yourself up to possibilities you never imagined, to experiences that align with your true self, and to a life that feels lighter, more fulfilling, and deeply meaningful. True freedom comes not from avoiding pain, but from transforming it. And when you do, you don't just change your own life, you inspire others to do the same. So today, I invite you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what are you ready to let go of? What emotions, beliefs, or attachments have been keeping you stuck? And most importantly, what kind of life do you want to create for yourself once you free yourself from those chains? If this message resonated with you, if you feel that you are ready to take the next step toward your personal growth, then make sure to subscribe to this channel here. We explore the depths of the mind, the secrets of the universe, and the wisdom of great thinkers like Carl Jung, so that together we can unlock our fullest potential. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and turn on the notifications so you never miss an episode. Remember, your transformation starts now. The power is already within you. All you have to do is embrace it.